Do anybody know in here who Albert Eiler was? Okay. And for those that don't know, Albert Eiler was a tenor saxophonist in the 60s, whatever, and probably one of the most unique players ever. Okay, we know Coltrane and Charlie Parker and all that, but in the field of a testimony from the heart and not being a bopper and playing what everybody else is playing, he stood out, I think, more than what Ornette did too, of course, but Albert Eiler was something different. Now, it was sort of gospel, search heart, and I know everybody is in here about the gospel, so I won't preach to you today, even though I would like to. So, and it was that. And if you ever get a chance to find any of his work, just listen to it, so you know, before you. Now, my point is that when he came in the 60s to New York, he came with his brother Don, who was a trumpet player, and they were starting to really, you know, be whoever they wanted to be. But what happened is that, like some people who have records, and we all want money, but we don't need to do crazy things for money, but I know people do, so that's the way it is. They were trying to make an Albert Eiler a rock star. Now, I know this really to be the truth, so and I have sources for that, people who played with him and everything. And they insisted that he didn't play with his brother, who he had played with all those years. Well, he didn't live that long, but he died in his 30s, and I'll tell you why. This is about New York. And what he did was, you know, like some people grow up in the street and they do this and they do that, and then some people don't grow up in the street, okay? Albert didn't really grow up in the street, but he found himself in the street life, and you gotta know how to handle that one, because it can be very vicious. And then he started going with the wrong people, dating the wrong ladies. So they killed him. They took cement blocks and put him in the East River and they killed him. So that is what fame can do for you if you don't do what a lot of companies ask you to do. John Coltrane, Albert didn't live to be 40, he's about 36, 37. John Coltrane died at 40. Now, he grew up in that life, and we know about the drugs and all that, and he stopped all that. One day he walked in to the office of, what's the name of that label he was on? Impulse, which was one of the biggest jazz labels, you know, from over here in the world. And what he did, and he walked in, and Bob Thiel, whatever it is, had a gold record on his wall of John Coltrane's, which means you make a lot of money and you're famous. So, what happened is John died, I won't say why, I'll just leave it at that. And when they took him to the hospital, they took him to the ward and put him over against the wall and didn't take care of him and let him die. Okay. I'm sure somebody asked him to do that because the people who have the money and the guns, you do what they say or you die. Okay. So those are just some of the stories that happened. Charlie Parker was another example of record companies giving you drugs rather than giving you money. And once you get on drugs, it can be a very hard thing to get off. Just like smoking or anything. It's just natural, it'd be difficult. So he died at 36. Okay, Booker Little was one of the greatest trumpet players after Clifford Brown. He was 23. So for all kinds of reasons, Booker had, they say, a blood disease. I don't know about that. I'll just say that's what it is. So I'm just telling you one of the history. It's probably the history in other musics. I don't know too much. I don't even know this music that well. So I don't know about other music too much. But it's just a life. If you haven't been in New York or lived there, and if you were really in it, you'd see the control factor in a city like that. You know, it's millions of people, but it's very controlled with the money and the whole underworld people. And the government, it doesn't do anything. So I don't want to preach on that. So that's one of the histories of jazz. And so more of the history of jazz now, people are being very nice, shirt and ties, and being nice, and ladies with bows in their hair and playing nice and saying nice things. And you have some trumpet players that are there now, including Whit Marsalis, that really businessmen went and got them and set them up, and it was a control. I'd say in front of his face, it doesn't matter, it's true. Okay, so I'm just glad you came, and I'm not one of those people and famous and all that stuff. But I hope you appreciated the players, not only from your country and other countries, and pray for them to have long lives too. Let's see, I gotta have one joke. Oh, I got two. What did, I'll say, the father or the parent say to the buffalo? You know what a buffalo is?
Yeah.
When the buffalo child was on the way to school, what did they say to him?
What?
Bye, son. You know what that means? Well, I don't know about here. Buffaloes are called bisons. But that didn't go over good. Oh, do I have one more? Probably not, because that didn't work. So, God bless you. Up here doing this so you don't feel you wasted your money. So, I want to say something about Ksawery. He's one of your folks in the country that you live in, and there's Klaus. He's from Deutschland, so I can't say too much because I'm talking about somebody who lives in your home. Nah. I travel a lot. We travel a lot. Most of you have, and I know we're from different cultures and that whole thing. And I don't want to get into all that race and crazy stuff. It's not crazy, but he is one of the top 2 or 3 bass players in the world. And I noticed. For 2 reasons. One is I play bass, and the rest I've heard all the rest of them since I was a child. And he doesn't really need to stand up here and work himself to death like he did, because he has much more to offer from a very more relaxed point of view. So I want to say this, that I don't know how famous he will become, but I think I've heard every bass player that there is. That's pretty much. I'm an old man, so you know I did, unless I'm deaf. So please support him and understand what you have in this country, because I don't really know anybody that can outplay him. Okay, and to me, there was one bass player called Scott LaFaro, and he's going past that. Oh, yes, he has. And, I can say that because I play bass, not to say I'm good enough, because I do understand the instrument. Because I played bass before I played sax. So at least I know the instrument that I played. And I've heard Scott LaFaro Paul Chambers. I've heard everybody and seen most of them. So I don't say that lightly. I can't make myself any more serious about that. And I've heard them all from every country, just about, and played with most, not most, a lot of them. Ron Carter, Paul Chambers was a different kind of individual. It's not about this. So if he would get with some people that could play as good as him, he'd be in good shape. No, but I don't mean that. Sort of like a nice trio. Bill Evans was not my favorite, but they called, I don't know, you know the records with Bill Evans and Scott LaFaro? You really call it the Scott LaFaro trio. It wasn't Bill Evans. And I don't say that to degrade him. So, and that's what he can do with a group. He can take it over. So pray for him. God bless him and you. Amen. It would be unfair to leave Klaus out. No, he wouldn't play anymore if I did that. Klaus Kugel is a great, great drummer. Great, and I mean one of the great drummers. To me, the problem with that is he plays with other people. Basically, instead of because he needs to work, instead of him, who should be very successful in doing what's in his heart. Because up here, he's doing what I hate to say what I want to do, or not even, you know, and that way he can expand more, but people hire him a lot because he's that good, okay? So let's also encourage, and I say pray because I don't know everybody doesn't pray. And if you want to hear a sermon, I'm definitely ready to tell you. It's just the way I am. And it's cheaper than the pulpit, I've been telling you that. He has unlimited talent, and he can compete with anyone, and I know what I'm saying. But my advice to him, and then you encourage him to get a group that he can do the broad things that's in his heart instead of like what's in mine or somebody else's, because then he would be up here. So God bless him too.